Last month, I kickstarted a new ranking series on this channel with all Scorpion costumes ranked. After receiving plenty of comments, it only seemed right to follow it up with the other poster boy of the series, the rival to Scorpion and one of my favorite video game characters ever, Sub-Zero. Today we're going from ripping off heads to judging his attire by ranking all 32 of Sub-Zero's costumes from the worst to the best.
Fight! For the Lin Kuei.
Before we get into it, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Raid Shadow Legends is a role-playing mobile game with a huge fantasy world with more than 600 playable champions, all coming from their own unique factions, each with their own history in the world of Teleria. And my favorite faction is the High Elves. Their backstory is pretty awesome. Their homeland, Aravia, has been around for thousands of years. Surviving the fall of the Lizardmen Empire, helped the humans form into civilizations, and defeated the orcs when they formed a huge horde and attacked the continent. But then things got twisted when Cyroth, the Lord of Darkness, convinced a bunch of elves to go evil and attack the kingdom. The Civil War nearly ended the elves, but Aravia had survived, rebuilt, and it's now stronger than ever. And my favorite is Jingle Hunter. He's just in the festive mood. And this month is huge for Raid. They just released a brand new faction, the Sylvan Watchers, with some amazing new champions. Forest Elves, Ents, Druids, Fays, they're all here and I can't wait to summon them all to play with. And if that's not enough, Raid's got a full lineup of events along with the new season of the Forge Pass, where you can get your hands on some of the most powerful gear the game has ever seen. This is the best time to get started in Raid, and if you click the link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen, you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Aina, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in the game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Again, thank you so much Raid for sponsoring this video, and let's get into it. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. My name is Nick, and welcome to or welcome back to the channel. If you haven't done so, consider clicking the subscribe button to join the Whack Pack today, and to stay tuned for some more Mortal content. Today, we're continuing all costumes ranked and moving on to my favorite character of the series, and one of my favorite video game characters of all time, Sub-Zero. And if you thought ranking Scorpion's costumes was difficult to do, Sub-Zero has the most in the series with 32 costumes. Thankfully, you have me, a Sub-Zero fan since birth. I mean, just look at my shirt to help with this ranking today. Like Scorpion's ranking, these rules will be implemented for the ranking. Rule number 1, I'll only be basing off the original costume from a title. If it is repeated, such as classic skins remade as DLC, that'll only count as 1 placement. We'll only be looking at the games, so I won't be including stuff like MK Annihilation, the 2021 reboot, and other media that he's appeared in. Rule number 3, I am not going to be factoring gear pieces in here, because that'll be a nightmare when we look at Mortal Kombat 11 and Injustice 2. And rule number 4 when it comes to Mortal Kombat 11's customization. As mentioned in the last episode, only the first variant of a skin will be included. The exceptions will be DLC costumes that aren't referenced elsewhere within the series, such as the Halloween and movie skin packs. However, if the DLC is a classic or a repeat, it won't be included. Alrighty, let's all chill out and rank all 32 of Sub-Zero's costumes across the entire series. Coming in last place is the shocker to no one who's a longtime fan of the series, the alternate skin from Deception. As a Sub-Zero fan, this is an absolute eyesore. The obvious elephant in the room is the head. Like, what's up with that ponytail? Sub-Zero usually has casual looking hair, but this just looks horrendous, and the mask is a bit too generic. Speaking of, the rest of his costume makes him come off as a generic enemy you'd fight in a hack and slash game, not Mortal Kombat. Many people have already criticized this skin to high heaven, so I don't want to repeat too much of what's already been said. I'll just cut right to the point and say it straight up, this skin just sucks. Just squeezing ahead a single placement is a skin either many of you forgot about or are trying to forget, the Dimitri Vegas crossover skin. Though this is a rework of some alternate Sub-Zero skins in MK11, this includes 3 major changes. 1, the neon stripes along the costume, Second, the likeness of Dimitri Vegas, who was the EDM producer who created tracks to promote Mortal Kombat 11. And third, but worst, is the voice.
To find out whether you are dark or light.
Hey, yeah, quick question. What was that? Yep, this is what we were graced with. I know many people have bashed this skin already for the bad voice acting, and I don't want to get too into it. But I really think this was executed poorly. For those who aren't in the know, Vegas is not a native English speaker and isn't trained in voice acting, such as someone like Steven Bloom, the current voice actor for Sub-Zero and Spike from Cowboy Bebop, which is really clear to hear once you just hear him talk. If they went with an EDM-themed skin for Sub-Zero and Scorpion and omitted the facial models of Vegas, then I think this could have been placed a bit higher and be more appreciated by the community. Now, I'm not saying that guest voice appearances are bad, just listen to Christopher Lambert and Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage and Raiden in MK11, but this was just executed poorly. This music-based skin is just hitting the wrong note with the fans. Up next on our list with Mortal Kombat 4, the title that introduced alternate costumes and skins. At 30, we've got the third Sub-Zero costume, the frozen arms and legs variant. I just look at this and think it's a bit too much. I know frozen arms for some people can be a bit of a stretch. Personally, it never bothered me and I thought it looked nice. But frozen legs on top of it is too weird, which is saying a lot for Mortal Kombat 4. Thankfully, the team knew how ridiculous this skin was and didn't bring it back in any future titles. Guess the frosty arms and legs weren't cool enough to stick around. Still pretty early in this ranking, and we're already moving into Mortal Kombat X, specifically looking at the Triborg version of Cyber Sub-Zero. For how awesome the Cyber Sub-Zero design from MK9 was, I'm really disappointed with the turnout of this version of the character. It just looks extremely generic and is just a faded blue version of Smoke. No facial modifications like what Sector and Cyrax had with their variations, so it really doesn't stand out a whole lot. And with the color grading of MKX, this one really doesn't pop that much either. I really wish it just took advantage of the blue and silver accents the original one did. Overall, this one is just more of a disappointment than anything. Crashing into number 28 with our first base design, that being the Deadly Alliance one. Personally, I'm not too fond of old Sub-Zero, or should I say Kuai Liang at this point. I understand he's supposed to be passing the torch to his student, Frost, but it seems like he is out of his prime. Like, way out of his prime. Never been a fan of this one. On top of it, the clothing isn't something I like too much either. Sure, the ice arms are a nice touch, but the clothing was never a favorite of mine. Put on some sleeves, put on a shirt, and throw a mask on and get some more ninja clothes. Then you'll be sly AF. Speaking of peeling away from the ninja design, we're looking at another base design of Sub-Zero, the Mortal Kombat 3 version. This was the first title in the series I played and the first time I got to see Sub-Zero, and even as a kid, I thought his design was meh. I've never been a fan of his vest he wears. It really reminds me of the MK9 Sonya vest for all the wrong reasons. This is just a design that makes him come off as more generic than anything. And this is coming from a series with some of the most iconic designed characters too. Though I do like the facial scar, something that is retained in future designs, it's not enough to bump it up any higher than this spot. On to Mortal Kombat X with the human version of Sub-Zero, looking at the Cold War skin. In the previous episode, I mentioned Scorpion's Cold War felt like a big missed opportunity, and I can say the same here. With the color scheme, Sub-Zero's color really doesn't get a chance to be expressive or pop all that much. The only things that really pop are his variation with the ice arms and the ridiculous looking helmet he wears. And speaking of his arms, they're really missing some elements to stand out. Gloves just won't cut it. I always thought some cool scientific take of him would be cool, like imagine if he had some flash freezing device hooked up to his arms with wires going all down them. That'd be really cool. But instead, we just got another missed opportunity. Number 25, and we're already looking at the latest title in the series, Mortal Kombat 11. Of all of the Sub-Zero skins available for customization, I found his Hailstone variants to be my least favorite. A few things this one does wrong in comparison to the other skins. For one, the hood and the loose ends combination does look a bit off. The hood is just a variant of the Grandmaster, but it removes the wings on the cap, so it just makes it look kind of awkward. The vest looks a bit off too, and its bare shoulders give it less flair, and the loincloth doesn't pop all that well. This just feels like a lesser version of the other skins in this game by removing a lot of elements. Where other Sub-Zero skins made it rain, this one just hails on the fans. Entering number 24 with the second playable appearance with Bi-Han as Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 9. In this retelling of the trilogy, this gave us an opportunity to revisit the first Sub-Zero, and this redesign doesn't do too much for me. I think the shirt looks a bit too bland, and all the unnecessary belts look too try-hardy to be edgy, which I guess is kind of fitting because he'd become Noob Saibot later in this game. The skin comes off more like a generic Lin Kuei ninja you'd fight in like some RPG, not really like a fighting game villain or anything like that. Though it is cute the skin provides the Noob Saibot dialogue, it doesn't do too much else to stand out. Sorry Bi-Han, looks like your little brother beat you out on this one. At 23 with another variant of the unmasked Sub-Zero, this time from Mortal Kombat X. Though I've never been the biggest fan of unmasked Sub-Zero, this one is at least a bit better than the previous outings. For one, his beard, a good way to show his age and how he progressed as a Grandmaster for the revived Lin Kuei. However, this borrows a lot of elements from the MK3 and Deadly Alliance designs by including the weird vest showing himself off a bit too much for my liking. It's not bad, but it could have been a bit better if it had the same improvements I had mentioned in the MK3 one. Sticking on brand with MKX by examining his base design. I'm not gonna lie, this base design really underwhelmed me when this game was announced 8 years ago. For one, I think the vest is a bit too puffy for my liking, looking like he's about ready to go on a hike through Mount Everest with Preston Blake from Mr. Deeds.
We're very close to the top, Mr. Puffy Jacket Man.
Also, I think there are some questionable additions to it too. For one, I don't like the straps going over his face that connect to his mask, along with the random blades on his gauntlets. I just think it's a bit too extra for me. Along with the color desaturation, this really doesn't pop too much in-game. If they manage to change his mask to include more blue and add some more, well, non-saturated blue to his design, then I'd be feeling less blue about this costume. Jumping into the second of 3 of his MK4 costumes with the unmasked version. This is pretty similar to the base design from MK4, but just removes the mask. It's not really anything flashy or special, I can just say it's slightly better than the other unmasked versions we've seen so far, but it's still one that's not really a go-to of mine. Jumping into the second edition of Mortal Kombat 3, specifically the Ultimate Edition. This version of the game provided 2 playable Sub-Zeros, one being Kuai Liang and the other classic Bi-Han. In both gameplay and design, I prefer the UMK3 version of Sub-Zero. However, this shares some of the same issues I had in the Scorpion design. The blue is very light, almost too shiny and too superhero-y, almost like highlighter. If they manage to dial back a blue a bit and make it a bit darker, maybe something like the MK2 or even the MK1 look, I could appreciate it a bit more. On top of that, if they manage to remove some of the accents, as I mentioned, the butt stripe, then I could like it more too. Not bad, just a mid-tier design. Speaking of superhero-y, we're moving from the martial arts fantasy lands to the strange and unjust world of Injustice 2. I know some of you are going to point out that I shouldn't be covering this since it's not a Mortal Kombat game, but I did want to take some time and talk about this before we get into some more Injustice content coming soon. Like Scorpion, this was designed by legendary comic book artist Jim Lee. Where I like some of this design, there are some elements that went a bit too far for me. To start with the positives, I like the vest, the shin pads, and I just like the color blue that's associated with the vest. I feel those really match well with the game's art and color style. However, I think the rest of the costume went a bit too far. For one, I'm not too huge on the mask, and though they are cool, I think the ice arms could have been dialed back a bit. Maybe for his base design, show some real skin instead of that armor that Scorpion had in MK9 that's all over the costume on this one. And lastly, I really don't like the cape. I could really only think of 2 people in the MK universe that can pull this off. and Subby ain't one of them. Now I get that the gear is supposed to play a major role in every character, as you can make your Sub-Zero, but I'm going just based off the base design. If I really wanted to factor all the gear in here, I'd be here for hours. And though I will give Jim Lee credit for making a unique design, I do think it goes a bit too far. It's a bit better than some of the other skins we've seen so far, but it isn't all that super. From this point on, I think these skins go from meh and okay to good. Like Scorpion's ranking, one or two elements are what separate a placement from each other. Just wanted to get that out of the way before we continue, so let's get on to the rest of these costumes. Time to jump into MK9 a second time to look at Cyber Sub-Zero. In one of the free updates, we were given a remake of the MK3 skin and a take of the classic Cyber Ninja form for Sub-Zero. Personally, I think this looks okay. I know many, including myself, love the classic Cyber Ninjas from MK3, and I like how the team went out of their way to create a version for Sub-Zero. The blue really pops and it feels like he always existed. This is a much better time than when Killer Instinct created a classic skin for a character that never existed. This is a what if done right. And speaking of classic designs, we're moving on to Mortal Kombat 4 one more time with the base design. Where the Scorpion version placed in the top 10 for the mask and the accessories, this one kinda lacks there, but is one of the better takes of the classic ninja look. Though the mask looks kinda generic, I do appreciate the eye scar from MK3 being implemented into the design. And same with the MK4 design for Scorpion, I'm not the biggest fan of the weird little horn wing things on the hood. To make it stand out like the MK4 Scorpion design, I think it could have used some belt or even a medallion to stand out on his chest, because right now it looks kind of bare. Other than that, this is still a good look overall. Moving on to another take on the classic skins from Mortal Kombat 11, first being the Winter Solstice variants. This is a big improvement on the first MK11 skin we looked at. Standouts include the ninja hood, shin pads, and the gauntlets feeling classic with a bit of a modern touch. The difference being the decal on the ninja vest. Though nice, I think the secondary could be a bit brighter as the blue and black blend a bit too much on that decal. Other than that, a good way to update a classic. Moving ahead to the next MK11 skin with the Arctica variants. Now before you go all Pam Beasley and say they're the same skin, there are some slight differences. The biggest being the decal on the vest. Instead of a thin stripe, we now got two thin stripes and a block of black taking up the shoulders. The blue stands out a bit more than the previous entry, but since they're almost the same skin, minus the loincloths, they only get placed one over the other and doesn't move up much higher than that. At number 14, and we're looking at the final take of Cyber Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 9. In this timeline, Sub-Zero was the one forced into the Cyber Initiative instead of Smoke, and with that, we were given a unique take and a cool new Cyber Ninja. I know some people are mixed on the inclusion of Cyber Sub-Zero, myself included, but I can't deny how cool some of this design looks. I mean, just look at the helmet, good god, this looks awesome! Others include the shoulders and the bright blue lights to make it stand out. This one, instead of going for the whole armor being coated in blue, it mixes some silver and blue to make it stand out. Though the Cyber Ninja is a bit too bulky for my liking, I could dial back on the shoulder pads, I still think this is a great and original design for a what-if scenario. From Cyber Ninja Steel in MK9 to Blue Steel in MKX. As I mentioned in Scorpion's ranking, this costume did a great job making up for the faded color scheme by adding shiny gold. Sub-Zero manages to do the same with blue. Although it's identical to the Scorpion skin, I think it looks better on Sub-Zero. Personally, I just think the blue looks really nice, especially in this game's color scheme and palettes. I still wish it did something different, maybe like a different hood or vest or something like that would have been nice instead of being a carbon copy. Now that I'm thinking about it, what about a blue scar over the eye? I think that would make it look cool. Though I'm not factoring in variations into the costume, those really pop well on this. Just apply the ice arms and this looks awesome. This almost was the best Sub-Zero skin in MKX, but I found one to be slightly better. Rounding out MKX's costumes by looking at the Revenant skin. At the end of MK9, Sub-Zero was killed and then recruited as one of Quan Chi's minions. Of all of the Revenant designs, this one is probably my favorite. The faded color actually makes sense here, as he is undead and meant to come off as more of an edgy version than his alive counterpart. What could have bumped this up a bit higher is if they gave him a hood. I really don't like the hair, it looks kinda weird poofing out like that. I think an inclusion of a hood could have saved this and placed it in the top 10. And with that, all of MKX's costumes are out of the ranking. Though I am 1 week late, we will be looking at one of the Halloween skins included as DLC, specifically the Blizzard King set for Sub-Zero. This is just an amazing concept for Sub-Zero. Clearly inspired by the Night King, but adds some Chinese-inspired armor to the set. And damn, if you thought Noob Saibot looked evil, this is way more menacing. I believe this should have been the Revenant approach for Sub-Zero, and kinda reminds me of the Shredder Zero costume from Deception. Overall, for a Halloween-themed skin, this is amazing. Definitely a nice Halloween treat for the MK fans. Cracking into the top 10 with the last costume from the reboot, Sub-Zero's base design. Of all of his base designs, I would consider this a high B tier. What I love most about this is how simple but effective this costume is. The vest is pretty simple and not too over-designed. I love the addition of the arm pads and with the design on them. The wraps and even the belt look nice. Not only does he look like a member of the Lin Kuei, it also looks like it was built by hand, which makes it stand out a lot more. My real only gripe comes from the color scheme. I think the blue is a bit too dark and it blends too much with the black Under Armour. Besides that, this is a great design. Jumping into another readapted ninja look from Deadly Alliance, that being the Sub-Zero alternate skin. This is a great way to adapt a classic, maintaining the hood and vest, but adding stuff onto it without it feeling like it's over-designed. The medallion added onto the chest, along with the silver pieces, are great touches. Lastly, the inclusion of the ice arms is a great addition. Overall, this is one of the better skins Sub-Zero has to offer. Like his master status, it's grand. Looking at one more take on a classic from MK11 with the Tundra variants. Named after Sub-Zero's original name during the development of MK1 and the name given to Kuei Liang in MK9's story, this does a great job readapting the classic MK1 design. Instead of a sewn look, this goes for more of a light decal to the vest and adds a nice design to the leggings. As much as I like this skin, I'm really disappointed we didn't get to see it in MK11's story. Missed opportunity there, NRS. I don't have too much else to say on this one, it's just a cool skin. Let's stick around with Mortal Kombat 11 by looking at our last take of the Kuei Liang skin, specifically the Back to Basics variant. Of the Kuei Liang skins, this is the best. For one, this doesn't age him too much like the Deadly Alliance costume. Sure, it borrows a lot from the Grandmaster skin, but it does enough to make it stand out on its own. This includes the headband, the daggers on his waist, altered shoulder pads, and the loincloth even changing. And quick side note here, these face models are insane to look at. It's crazy to see how far the technology has come from digitized actors and weird 3D models in the MK4 era. Way to kill it with Kuei Liang, NRS. Super proud of you all. And speaking of back to basics, we're looking back at where it all started with Mortal Kombat 1. I still believe the classics are some of the best looking ninja outfits in all of gaming. Not to repeat myself, but the ninjas really look amazing and are the standout characters. Honestly, I really think Sub-Zero stands out a bit more than Scorpion. Blue just pops a bit more in comparison to yellow. This is one legacy skin that still has loads of impact to this day, so much so that I actually wore it for Halloween one year. And speaking of legacy costumes, number 5 will go to the MK2 Classic design. This one just took the right pointers from the original and improved on it. The mask is slightly different than before, and it adds some sewn patterns to the vest, and the belt is a nice standout. Once again, the blue isn't too bright or too dark. It perfectly fits the color scheme of the game. Not too much to say once again, but similar to the last entry, another skin with lasting impact and would be referenced for years. Rounding out the last of the Mortal Kombat 11 skins with his base design, the Lin Kuei Grandmaster variants. I know this is a bit of a mixed bag for some, but I'm in the boat of people who really like it and think it's one of Sub-Zero's best costumes. For one, this greatly showcases so much about his personality. The colors pop so well together. Instead of the traditional black and blue mix, this includes silver and white to the mix, which blend perfectly like myself and Bad Puns. The additional arm pieces looking like the Lin Kuei logo are a nice touch, along with the loincloth. It just looks so majestic. Lastly, I know the hood is a mixed bag for some, but I like it, as it harks to his Chinese roots. Overall, this is one of the best modern costumes in Mortal Kombat 11, and one of my favorite base designs for Sub-Zero. Way to end Mortal Kombat 11 on a high note. Cracking into the top 3 with the black sheep of the series, Mortal Kombat vs. DC's Sub-Zero costume. As much of a mixed bag this whole game is, I think this is one of the best Sub-Zero designs. This one really feels like his base design from MK9, but done much better. I love the vest he's wearing and with the accented design on it. The shoulder pads are an amazing touch to this skin. And lastly, the ice arms are another great addition. Instead of a red scar, it's now blue, and it really stands out for the right reasons, making it come off more magical than ever. For how much people like to take a steamy dump on this game for its lackluster finishers, oh don't worry, we'll get there soon, this really makes up for it for having some of the better designs in the series, Sub-Zero and Scorpion being prime examples. Like a comic book world of heroes, it's just super. Our runner-up comes from one of the best spin-off games I've ever played, Shaolin Monks. Honestly, this reimagining of MK2's Sub-Zero just looks fantastic. This is a good mix between the 90s style with some appropriate modernizations. The ice arms feel like they perfectly fit with this art style and the tone of the game. I also love how this one gave him the MK3 eye scar too, now caused by Kung Lao's hat instead of a mark of death for the Lin Kuei. The vest with the right shade of blue doesn't have it blend too much with the black parts of the costume, which many other Sub-Zero costumes do. This honestly has to be one of the best redesigns in the series, and it's a real shame we never saw this one reimagined for a future title. I'd love to see this reappear sometime soon in the series, ice arms and all. This almost took the top spot, but longtime fans of the series knew what was going to take it. Alright, I'm fairly certain longtime fans of the series saw this one coming a mile away, but our number 1 is the base design from Deception. I'm sorry, but I love this costume ever since I first played Deception. Why? Let me explain. Of all of the designs, this just screams Grandmaster to be feared by his enemies and respected by his allies. The Shredder helmet instead of a traditional hood works well for me. I love the inclusion of the fur around the neck, and the vest contrasts well with the black and silver accents. The armor pieces, or known as cryo armor, are a great standout, including the gauntlets and shoulder pads. Also, one of my favorite inclusions that no other Sub-Zero skin have done is the Frost skin. It's just a great way to showcase he is slowly becoming a god of ice. This costume was so beloved that fans have been asking for this to return in the NRS era, and it finally did. To be completely honest, it doesn't look the best in MK11, but it's still a solid inclusion overall, and it's actually one of my go-to designs. Also, a quick shout out to the Poor Guy for their awesome rework of this skin. If it were like this in MK11, it would have been a god tier design. Sure, many may have seen this coming a mile away, but coming from a hardcore Sub-Zero fan since day one, I just had to confirm that this is the best Sub-Zero costume in the entire series. So there you have my ranking of all 32 of Sub-Zero's costumes ranked from worst to best. There are a lot of costumes out there for the Chief of Chill, so let me know which one you like the most and what makes you like it so much. Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. Recently, we reached 20,000 subscribers, and I have no one to thank but you for all of your continuous support. Seriously, this means so much, and I never would believe we would make it to such an awesome milestone. I'm happy for all of your support on both these finisher and character rankings, but come back next time for another surprise ranking on this series. It's gonna be super cool, or should I say extremely cool. Until then, thank you so much for checking out this long-awaited video. My name is Nick, and remember to have an amazing day.